Aloha, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Unapologetically Lee. I'm Lee. Um, and so today I pose the question of what causes fear, and I just wanted to see what came up, as well as what is fear, and just to see what spirit, source, God, wanted to say about it, because the topic of fear kept coming up in what does collective need to know, and the word fear kept popping up. And so I wanted to dive a little deeper in an esoteric spiritual sense, not a scientific sense. If you want to know the scientific meaning of fear, there's lots of information about that. This is more of the word I hear is egoic, and I have no idea what that means, but I'm guessing that is more of the esoteric and spiritual meaning of fear, um, and how one can overcome fear. Um, yeah, and anyways, so the first thing that I heard, I feel like the both questions, what causes fear and what is fear, they kind of coincide together. And then I see spirit shaking his or her head, like, yes, that's right. It's the same thing. What causes fear and what is fear is the same thing. So the first thing that came this morning, sorry, I'm looking down at my notes, was not knowing what is ahead, like the unknown, like uncharted land. That's what I hear. And just, I hear not having a plan is part of that fear. And I know there are people out there who are planners and people who are like to go with the wind, right? And I believe in this day and time there is a shift between, we have to have a plan and know what we're doing so that we can be quote unquote successful, right? And then now Mother Gaia, she's shifting more into that feminine energy, which is more the flow structure, right? And just going with the flow. Yes, we have an idea of where we want to go. For example, one example comes to mind is moving, right? You know where you're going to move or where you're called to move, but the stages to get there you're unsure of. And I hear the best way to combat that type of fear is to have faith. It's interesting, both words has F in it, so replace fear with faith. Excuse me. um and then the second thing is having no control. The idea, fear is based on letting go of control, and be open to the possibility of what you already have in your mind. As humans, we are like, our brains is like a system, and I see a computer system. Our brain is so intelligent and it has so much capability of things that we're not even tapped into, and we're only accessing just a slight percentage of it. But anyways, so the idea of letting go of fear and being open, and a way to combat that, the control aspect of our brain and our need to control a situation or an event or whatever, is oh gosh, again, I hear faith, and also be open, be present, being present in the moment. That's a way to combat control, is to be in the moment. And I have experience in this, and it's so beautiful every time you drop in to the present moment and not thinking about the future. Yes, you have a goal for your future. Let's say you want to open your business and you know what it looks like. For example, myself, I know what my business looks like. I'm clairvoyant, right? But how am I going to get there? The journey, I have no idea. And so I've been practicing being mindful, being present in the moment, in everyday life, when I'm with my children, dropping in more. And yes, it takes practice, because as a mother, and also I think as a human being, we have the capacity to do multiple things at once, and that is not healthy, especially again in this stage in life, and in this time, in the shift. So remembering to stay present to combat control, and letting go, being open to any possibility of different paths that spirit has laid out for you. And I hear, yes, I've laid out multiple paths that you can take, not too many as to overwhelm the individual, but enough different paths and ways to go that you can't go wrong, if that makes sense. And another word I hear is, when you open yourself to that, is trust. Trust that the path that you usually don't take, that you usually don't, for example, your train of thought, or the way you think, or the way you do things, and then spirit or God puts something in your path, and you're like, oh, that's not how I do things. Spirit says, I challenge you to do it a little different, and by you taking that leap of faith, and trusting that this is for your highest good, then the abundance and all the resources are going to be there for you. And wow, that was a beautiful message right there. Okay, so the third thing that causes fear is judgment of yourself and the outcome of your success or lack of success. This hinders a person from taking action, right? It scares the person, and the ego says, no, this isn't normal, or this isn't what we're used to, and that is what you're challenging, is ego. Ego is judging, like, your ability to oh gosh, I just had it, to execute the plan, if that makes sense. And because it's out of the norm, we've been programmed in our 9-to-5 job to have certain structures, but then when we're out of that structure and we're living our own life, we forget that we have so much freedom in our life to do what we wish and do what we want, do what we're called to do. And the ego fears that freedom because it doesn't feel like there's structure. But the person who is holding that structure when you do have freedom is spirit and or God, right? And source and the universe, right? The higher being, whatever you want to call that energy. And so I hear, let go of the unknown and the judgment and the inner critique, and just take a little tiny step forward. You don't have to, in my past videos, I said, just take the leap. And I think that's a little bit more aggressive for people who are just coming out of letting go of control. So if you're so used to controlling your life, Spirit says, just take one step, one thing that you let go of control of, one thing that you don't want to judge yourself on. For example, if you wanted to take a pottery class or something, and oh man, perfectionism gets in there, and then art isn't perfect, and so it makes you have to let go of control of the idea of making this pot, especially when you start out. It's you're learning, and it's going to be lopsided, and your structure, like your creation, isn't going to be perfect, right? Until you start to go in with the flow, right? Life is artistic, and I love that Spirit gave me that example, because life is like that. When you are, I've only done pottery one time, but when you are in the flow and you just feel and present, your creation is something beautiful. But then when you start to overthink and to control it, like, whoa, it gets all whacked. And that's what it happened to my creation, right? And I didn't listen to my inner knowing. But anyways, releasing that judgment and then being able to laugh about your mistakes. Life is messy, and that's why we're here. We're here to make mistakes. Find joy in those mistakes. Pick ourselves up, and then keep going. Make these mistakes lighthearted. You know what I mean? I know. For me, I know my parents were really hard, and I want to say a lot of our parents were hard on us. And if you were one of the lucky few that were very gentle in your mistakes, bless you. You had wonderful parents, but for those of us who weren't as lucky, yeah, we have to retrain that. And whenever we make mistakes, to laugh at it, bring the vibration up rather than making ourselves feel down and heavy on those mistakes, All right. And then the last thing that causes fear is comfortability. I don't even know if that's a word, but it came up. So the idea of not being comfortable, because when you decide to step into the unknown and the thing that causes fear, or letting go of control, is that the control causes comfort, right? Because you are able to maintain a certain energy, but then growth and mistakes make us uncomfortable. And so that's just one example. I mean, it could be a plethora of things, like moving to another state. That is very uncomfortable because you're taking yourself out of an environment that you no longer know, and now you have to make new friends and get out there, explore, so that your environment, right? And Spirit and God wants us to get out of our comfort right now, because the shift is coming, and He wants us to I'm used to he, but I know the energy is both feminine and masculine, but anyways, wants us to come back to connection with in person, if that makes sense. COVID was an awakening. It was showing us that it was a shift, right? And what is it? AI shift, right? And technology shift, and also a shift in like cocooning. But now we have to come out of that cocooning. We got to spread our wings. We had enough time especially for the sensitive people. I enjoyed it, but now it's time to come out and to socialize and to practice the skills that we have learned and accumulated through those years. But anyways, oh yeah, and then I also wrote, what is fear? And then the answer that came up is is ego. And the base of fear is preserving the ego. And when you step out of that ego, it dissolves. You know what I mean? It opens you up to multiple possibilities and excitements and joy. And as you can see, I'm excited about it. Spirit is running through me right now. And I can feel it too for myself, that if I were to step out of ego, it would be the word I hear is liberating, and it's just so freeing, because you're not constrained to the structures that you yourself or society or your family, whoever placed it on you. But ultimately, to be honest, we place that structure on ourselves, because we're getting information and feedback from outside of us, and then we think that that's how we're supposed to be. But now is the time to break that structure and to break the ego, and to live free, and the way your heart. This is the key to unlocking your heart potential, to be fearless in living your true authentic self. Anyways, I'm sorry. I know that this is kind of a heavy topic, but as you can see, just talking about how to break away from fear and these constraints is so beautiful. And I hope that you found something that resonates with you, and that you don't have to do all of these all at once. Oh, please, no, that is that could cause a mental breakdown. So I feel like just take one of these and then work on it, like for a whole week or a few weeks. Practice of letting go of control, for example, or letting go of judgment of other people and of yourself. Don't judge yourself in how you approach things. There's a million different ways to approach a particular situation. There is no right or wrong, especially with spirit and God, right? But anyways, that's it for now. Until next time, have a beautiful day, evening, night, whatever it is for you. Bye, beautiful souls.